As the first pale light of morning seeps through the cracks of the wooden shutters, the bell in the convent tower begins its slow, hollow toll. The sound rolls through the mist that still clings to the fields, soft and heavy like breath against glass. Each note drifts outward, touching the rooftops of the small village beyond the stone walls. A village that still lies mostly asleep, its thatched roofs silvered with dew. Inside the convent, narrow beds line the dormitory. Wooden frames with straw-stuffed mattresses, covered with coarse woolen blankets, that hold the faint scent of smoke from last night's fire. The sisters rise in silence, as they have done every morning for years. Bare feet touch the chill of the flagstone floor, linen veils are drawn over sleepy hair, rough habits are fastened with practiced hands. No one speaks. Only the faint rustle of fabric and the creak of old boards answer the distant bell. All, that is, except for one sister, Sister Agnes. Sister Agnes has not risen with the others. She lies still, curled like a cat beneath her blanket, one hand half tucked beneath the pillow where she hides the small comfort of a dried lavender sprig. She always means to wake at the first bell, but somehow, she never quite does. Her dreams linger like morning mist, and she is slow to leave them. The other sisters know this. They pass her quietly, shaking their heads with soft amusement. The worst nun in the convent. One of them whispers fondly as she walks past, though none mean it unkindly. Agnes is not wicked, nor lazy in heart. She simply moves at the gentle pace of someone who notices the small things too much. The hum of bees in summer, the warmth of sunlight on the cloister wall, the smell of baking bread in the refectory below. At last, as the last note of the bell fades into silence, she sighs, opens her eyes, and sits up. The convent is awake. By the time Sister Agnes ties her wimple and steps out into the corridor, the air is filled with the quiet rhythm of morning work. Some sisters sweep the halls with straw brooms, their strokes even and slow. Others light candles on the small stone altars, the faint smell of beeswax rising into the cool air. In the kitchens, a thin stream of smoke curls up from the hearth, and the first loaves of coarse rye bread begin to bake, their crusts crackling softly as they rise. Agnes joins them, humming under her breath. She carries a wooden bucket toward the courtyard well, her sandals scraping softly against the worn stone path. Outside, the mist is lifting. Beyond the convent walls, the village begins to stir. In the fields, peasants move like slow shapes through the haze. Men guiding oxen through damp soil, women with baskets over their arms, children running ahead to chase away the crows. The sound of wooden wheels creaks faintly from the distant road. Somewhere, a rooster crows for the third or fourth time, as if reluctant to end the quiet. At the well, the water glimmers dark, and still before it ripples at the drop of her bucket. The rope squeaks gently as she draws it up, her arms straining a little, her breath puffing faintly in the cold. The water smells faintly of stone and earth. She pours it carefully into a clay jug, watching the reflections quiver across the surface. The sky above her is pale gold now, the kind of soft light that never quite becomes bright, even at noon. Inside, she helps ladle porridge into small wooden bowls, each portion simple and steaming. The sisters eat in silence, seated along the long refectory table beneath a carved crucifix. Only the soft clink of spoons and the faint whisper of cloth fill the air. The walls here are thick and whitewashed, cool to the touch even in summer. A single narrow window lets in a strip of light that glows on the floor like a path. Sister Agnes eats slowly, savoring the warmth. She always lingers a little too long, staring at the play of light on the wall. By the time she rises to help clean, the others have already begun the next task. Later in the morning, she walks into the herb garden behind the chapel, one of her favorite places in the world. Here the air smells of rosemary and sage, of damp soil and crushed thyme beneath her sandals. Low stone walls border neat square plots of green, where mint and parsley grow in abundance, and tall stalks of fennel sway gently in the breeze. Bees hum among the blossoms, and somewhere a dove coos softly on the roof. The garden is tended by the sisters in rotation, but Agnes is often found there even when it's not her turn. She claims to be helping, though her help often consists of sitting on the low bench by the fig tree, watching the sunlight flicker through the leaves. When she does work, she does it carefully, pruning with gentle hands, planting with care. Though she sometimes forgets where she left her tools. Today she gathers a small bundle of chamomile and lavender, to dry for the infirmary. She tucks them neatly into her basket, the colors pale and lovely, like faded summer days. The scent clings to her sleeves. The village lies just beyond the convent wall, close enough that she can hear the faint clatter of the blacksmith's hammer, the occasional bark of a dog, and the murmuring of voices at the market square. It is a humble village. Wooden cottages with smoke rising from low chimneys, hens scratching in the dust, and small gardens where leeks and cabbages grow. The people here are used to the slow rhythm of work and rest, of seasons turning. Nothing much changes, and perhaps that is the comfort of it. Once each week, Sister Agnes and another sister are sent to deliver bread and herbs to the villagers. Today it is her turn. She walks with Sister Claire, a kind and practical woman with a serious expression, and quick steps that Agnes can never quite match. They carry baskets lined with linen cloths, still warm loaves beneath, herbs tied in bundles on top. The path to the village winds gently downhill, bordered by hedges and the occasional oak. The morning air smells of grass and smoke, of damp earth and distant rain. A small brook runs beside the road, its trickling sound constant and soothing. As they near the first cottages, the sounds of life grow clearer. A baby crying, a woman calling to her hens, the rhythmic chop of a woodcutter's axe. Children pause in their play to wave shyly at the nuns, their faces smudged with dust but bright with smiles. At the baker's cottage, warm air pours from the open door, carrying the sweet scent of honey cakes. The baker's wife, a round woman with flour-dusted hands, greets them with a deep curtsy. "Bless you, sisters," she says, her voice soft and tired. Sister Claire offers her a loaf, while Agnes slips a small sprig of lavender into the woman's palm, just for the scent. The woman smiles, eyes softening. Such visits are simple, but they mean much. The sisters bring not only bread and herbs, but a sense of quiet kindness. A reminder that in this small corner of the world, care still exists in gentle forms. By the time Sister Agnes and Sister Claire reach the edge of the village, the mist has burned away, leaving behind the soft shimmer of a warm day. The sun hangs like a pale coin above the fields, and the thatched roofs glint faintly, still damp from the morning dew. A light breeze stirs the scent of wildflowers that grow along the ditches, sweet clover, wild garlic, and the faint sharpness of nettle leaves warmed by the light. The dirt road beneath their sandals is dry and uneven. Every so often, a cart creaks past, its wheels leaving slow, deliberate prints in the soil. The driver, usually an old man in a hooded cloak, or a young boy with hay in his hair, raises a hand in greeting. The sisters respond with a nod, their veils fluttering slightly. In the distance, a dog barks. A few hens wander freely near a cottage gate, scratching in the dust and clucking to themselves. Somewhere, someone is beating a rug with a stick, the sound hollow and steady, like a drum echoing faintly across the lanes. Sister Claire walks ahead, her steps purposeful. Sister Agnes lags behind a little, her eyes following a swallow that darts and loops above the rooftops. She has always loved the swallows, their freedom, their effortless grace. She sometimes wonders if they notice her too, a small figure in a plain habit, walking the same path each week with the same basket in hand. The heart of the village is the square. Though it isn't square at all, just an open space where 3 dirt roads meet beside an old oak tree. Beneath its spreading branches, a few market stalls stand, rough tables covered with linen cloths, displaying whatever the week has brought. There are baskets of onions and leeks, small clay pots of honey, spools of undyed wool, and bundles of herbs tied with twine. A boy sells apples from a wooden cart, each fruit dull red and dusty with bloom. The air hums with quiet sound. The murmur of voices, the clink of coins, the faint buzz of flies drawn to the smell of cheese. It is not loud or busy, just steady, like the breathing of the village itself. Sister Agnes and Sister Claire pause, beside the well at the square's center. They set down their baskets to rest. The well's rope creaks softly as someone draws water. Sunlight glints off the ripples below, and a faint chill drifts upward from the depths. A farmer greets them, his hands rough, his tunic faded from many seasons in the sun. He offers them a small sack of barley in exchange for a loaf of the convent's bread. The trade is made with few words, but much quiet gratitude. Nearby, a woman sells lengths of homespun linen, folded neatly in stacks. Agnes runs her fingers over one. The weave coarse but even, the color the pale beige of unbleached thread. The woman smiles. For the sisters' robes, she asks. Agnes shakes her head gently. No, she says softly. For bandages, perhaps. The woman nods, understanding at once. As the hours lengthen, the market quiets. People drift home for their midday meal, leaving behind empty baskets, and a faint haze of dust that glows in the light. Even the animals seem to rest. The dogs sprawled in shade, the hens silent, the horseflies circling lazily in the heat. A Sister Clare checks their list and begins counting what remains. Agnes, meanwhile, finds herself watching a group of children playing near the fountain. They toss small pebbles into the water, each plunk echoing like a soft bell. One child has a wooden hoop and rolls it across the square, laughing when it wobbles and falls. The sound carries through the still air, pure, light, unhurried. The smell of cooking drifts from nearby cottages. Onions sizzling in fat, fresh bread cooling on a window ledge, the faint sweetness of stewed apples. Smoke rises in thin blue threads, caught in the stillness of the noon hour. Agnes sighs softly. This is the hour she loves most. When the day feels suspended, when even the wind seems to pause. The convent bells will soon call them back, but for now, she lingers in the warmth, letting the quiet sink into her bones. At last, Sister Clare gathers the empty baskets and nods toward the road. The path home is bright now, the sun almost overhead. Dust clings to their sandals and hems, and the air shimmers faintly above the fields. They pass the mill by the stream, its great wooden wheel turning slowly, groaning in rhythm with the flow of water. The miller waves, his sleeves rolled to his elbows, flour whitening his arms. He's been at his work since dawn, but he pauses long enough to wipe his brow and smile. As they walk, the sounds of the countryside accompany them. The steady hum of insects in the grass, the lowing of cattle, the distant cry of a hawk. Now and then, a breeze moves through the wheat, creating a soft rustle like whispered words. Agnes watches the play of light on the stalks. Gold shifting to green, then back again, endless and slow. By the time the convent's gray walls come into view, the air has grown still and heavy. The gate stands open, and a faint coolness greets them as they step inside. The courtyard is quiet. The morning's work done, the sisters resting before the next bell. Sister Clare goes to the kitchen, but Agnes lingers by the well once more. She dips her fingers into the water, letting the chill bite her skin. The ripples shimmer and fade. She thinks, not for the first time, how much life passes in such small circles. Bells ringing, bread baking, days turning like a wheel. After their return, the convent falls into a peaceful silence. The sisters take their simple meal, bread, broth, and a few leaves of lettuce from the garden, before withdrawing to the dormitory for the midday rest. The windows are narrow slits of pale light. Dust motes drift lazily through the beams. Sister Agnes lies on her cot again, though she does not sleep. She listens to the faint creak of the rafters, the distant song of a bird, the quiet breathing of those around her. Her mind drifts to small things. The smell of lavender still clinging to her sleeve. The memory of sunlight on the village square, the sound of water against the well stones. She thinks of nothing that must be done, nothing that must be said. The day stretches gently before her, unhurried and untroubled. When the next bell rings, it is slower, deeper, and more distant than the morning one. The sound moves through the air like ripples across a pond. Gentle, measured, certain. It calls the sisters from their rest, but without hurry. Even the sound seems to respect the stillness of the hour. Sister Agnes rises, blinking sleep from her eyes. The dormitory is filled with the faint scent of wool and beeswax from the candles. Outside the narrow window, she can see the courtyard. Bright now in the late light, with soft shadows gathering at the edges of the garden walls. The sisters move quietly through the halls, their steps muffled by worn rush mats. This is the time for craft and work. For mending habits, copying psalms, tending herbs, and seeing to small duties. Each task is simple. Each one, a rhythm of hands and breath and patience. Agnes finds herself assigned, as often, to the sewing room. She enjoys the work, though she is not the fastest seamstress. Her stitches wander slightly, as if following their own path. The older sisters sometimes tease her for it, but they do so gently, and she laughs softly in return. The sewing room is long and narrow, with sunlight filtering through latticed windows. Dust motes hang suspended in the beams like tiny stars, unmoving except when a sleeve brushes the air. On a table near the window lie piles of fabric, some coarse linen for habits, some fine wool for altar cloths, dyed faintly with herbs grown in the garden. The scent here is mild and pleasant, a mixture of clean cloth, candle smoke, and the faint tang of vinegar used to set dyes. The air hums softly with the faint rhythm of needles moving in and out of fabric, the threads whispering as they pull through. Sister Agnes sits near the end of the table. Her needlework basket is small, made of woven willow, and inside it lie a few wooden spools of thread, a thimble of dull pewter, and a handful of pins. As she works, she hums an old hymn under her breath. One she barely remembers the words to, but whose tune seems to fit the day. Through the window, she can see the village fields beyond the convent walls, small, square patches of green and brown, divided by low hedges and narrow paths. In one corner, a shepherd moves slowly with his flock, his dog circling the edges like a shadow. The scene is so calm, so ordinary, that it feels almost eternal. The sisters sew until the shadows lengthen on the floor. No one speaks loudly. When they do, it is in murmurs. Gentle questions about thread or cloth, quiet blessings for steady hands. Time stretches and softens. In the late afternoon, a soft knock sounds at the convent gate. It is common for villagers to come seeking herbs, or small kindnesses from the sisters. And the convent gatekeeper, an older nun named Sister Beatrice, always greets them with calm patience. Sister Agnes often joins her there, for she knows the herbs best. She carries her small basket of dried bundles in glass jars, each labeled with careful script. Comfrey for wounds, chamomile for calm, a mint for aches of the stomach. Today a young mother waits beyond the gate, holding a sleepy child. The child's face is flushed, the woman's eyes show worry, but her voice remains quiet and polite. Agnes speaks softly, asking simple questions, and then chooses a few dried leaves of feverfew and thyme. She explains how to steep them. One handful in warm water, a small cup at dusk. The mother thanks her with a deep bow. Agnes offers a smile, tired but gentle, and watches as they disappear down the dirt path toward the cottages. The small act leaves a trace of peace in her chest. Afterward, she stands by the gate for a while longer, watching the shadows lengthen across the fields. The air smells faintly of grass and earth. Somewhere, someone is scything hay. The rhythmic swish of the blade blending with the chirping of late-day birds. It is the sound of the medieval countryside in its purest form, unhurried, enduring kind. As the afternoon wanes, Sister Agnes returns once more to the garden. It is her favorite place at this hour, when the sun lowers and everything seems washed in gold. The herbs glow softly. The green of mint, the silvery leaves of sage, the pale blue flowers of borage that bees still visit, though more slowly now. As she kneels by the lavender bed, and begins to trim the dry stalks, gathering them into neat bundles tied with twine. Each cut releases a breath of fragrance that lingers in the still air. A cat, the convent's unofficial resident, slips between the rows, brushing its tail against her arm. She smiles faintly and strokes its back. It purrs a low, soothing rumble, before wandering off toward the wall, where lizards bask on warm stones. The garden walls are high, and the world outside feels distant, softened by the haze of evening. Agnes hears only the small, familiar sounds. The murmur of bees, the faint trickle of water in the basin, the quiet clatter of tools being put away. She feels at peace, though a small, mischievous thought crosses her mind. Tomorrow she will skip the early bell again, just for a few more minutes of sleep. She smiles to herself, tucks the lavender into her basket, and turns toward the cloister door as the shadows deepen. Before Vespers, the sisters walk once around the cloister. A slow, meditative circle beneath the arched walkway that borders the courtyard. Their sandals whisper softly on the worn stones. Above them, the sky fades toward dusk, and the first evening swallows dip through the air. The columns are carved with simple patterns: vines, leaves, and small crosses worn smooth by time. Between them, the garden glows in the fading light. Candles have been lit in the chapel beyond, their flames small and steady. Sister Agnes walks near the back of the group, her thoughts wandering. She notices the way the last light catches on the edge of the fountain. The sound of wind stirring the ivy on the wall. The faint echo of footsteps ahead. Each moment feels suspended, as if the world itself is holding its breath before night. By the time the walk ends, the first star has appeared, pale, faint and solitary in the blue, gray sky. The bell for Vespers begins to ring, slow and deep. It is the hour of quiet prayers and candlelight. As the sun begins its slow descent, the world around the convent grows hushed and golden. The long shadows stretch across the courtyard, reaching from the cloister arches to the edge of the herb beds. The air is mild now, neither warm nor cool, filled with that faint sweetness that comes just before dusk, when the day exhales its final breath, and everything seems to rest for a moment. The sisters prepare for Vespers, the evening prayers. They move in quiet procession toward the chapel, their habits brushing softly against the stone floor, their veils lifting slightly in the gentle breeze. The bell rings again, deep, measured, familiar. Each note seems to sink into the very walls, lingering there like memory. Inside the chapel, the air is cool and faintly scented with incense. Candles flicker along the altar, their small flames mirrored in the polished brass of the candlesticks. The walls are bare except for a single painted crucifix, its colors muted by time, yet tender in expression. The sisters kneel, and silence settles like a blanket. For a long moment, there is nothing, only the faint sound of a bird outside, calling once before flying home to roost. Then the chanting begins, low, slow, unhurried. The psalms rise and fall in steady waves, the Latin words blending into sound rather than sense. Sister Agnes, her voice softer than the rest, follows along, though sometimes she drifts a beat behind. Her voice is not strong, but it is warm, like a quiet candle in the dark. As the prayers continue, the sun finally sets. Through the small windows, the light shifts from gold to rose, then fades into blue. The chapel's candles seem brighter by contrast, their flames steady despite the faint draft that moves through the room. The sisters' voices weave together, dozens of tones blending into one calm, continuous hum. There is no urgency, no performance, each note is a breath, a heartbeat, a soft offering. Agnes lets her eyes rest on the flicker of a single candle. Its light trembles slightly, like a pulse. She imagines that somewhere beyond these walls, the same light is falling upon the village, upon the quiet cottages, and the small windows where families gather around their suppers. She pictures the baker's wife she saw that morning, the shepherd, the children playing near the well. All living their small, steady lives beneath the same fading sky. When the final Amen is spoken, the air seems to thicken with stillness. No one moves for a while. The moment hangs, serene, weightless, before the sisters slowly rise and file toward the refectory for their evening meal. The refectory glows with candlelight now. The long wooden table stretches down the room, its surface smooth from many years of use. Simple wooden bowls and cups are set in neat rows. The meal is modest, a stew of lentils and carrots, bread baked earlier that day, and a thin ale brewed from barley grown in the convent's own fields. The sisters eat in silence, as they always do, while one of them reads softly from a worn book at the far end of the hall. Her voice is calm, rhythmic. The story of a saint, perhaps, or a parable meant to quiet the heart. The words float gently above the sound of spoons tapping bowls. Sister Agnes listens, though her mind drifts. She notices the glow of the candles on the stone walls, the way shadows bend and sway with each flicker. She thinks about the garden, now hidden in dusk, and the cat that might already be curling up by the kitchen hearth. The warmth of the stew fills her, comforting and simple. From outside, faint night sounds begin to rise. The chirping of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, the creak of branches in the soft wind. It feels as if the whole world is settling into sleep together. When the meal ends, the sisters bow their heads for a brief prayer of gratitude. Then the soft clatter of wooden bowls being gathered fills the air, followed by the faint shuffle of sandals, as everyone moves toward their evening tasks. Some sisters remain in the kitchen, washing dishes with warm water drawn from the well. Others sweep the floors, their broom strokes slow and even. Sister Agnes takes up a small linen cloth and dries the cups one by one, stacking them neatly on the shelf. She hums as she works, not a song exactly. More a tune without words, something she half remembers from her childhood before she came to the convent. When the last dish is put away, she steps outside for a moment, breathing in the cool evening air. The courtyard is dimly lit by a few lanterns. Their light glows softly on the stones, creating pools of gold among the deepening shadows. The sky above is vast now, deep blue fading to black at the edges, scattered with stars just beginning to show. A crescent moon hangs low above the rooftops. Its light touches the well, the garden wall, the chapel spire. The village beyond lies silent, but faint curls of smoke still rise from a few chimneys. Agnes stands there a while, listening to the stillness. She feels the weight of the day lifting from her shoulders, leaving only quiet. Then the final bell rings. It is softer than the others. Slower, almost drowsy. Its echo carries gently over the courtyard, across the fields, toward the sleeping village. The sound seems to tell every living thing that the day has ended, and rest is near. The sisters begin to retire to their dormitory. Their candles move like small stars through the corridors, one by one disappearing behind wooden doors. The faint scent of smoke and beeswax lingers in the air. Sister Agnes walks last, her basket of dried lavender still in hand. She sets it on the small table beside her bed. The dormitory glows with the soft light of a few remaining candles. Each bed is neat and narrow, each blanket folded at the edge. She kneels briefly in prayer. Though her words are few, her thoughts gentle. Then she lies down, pulling the woolen blanket over her. The straw mattress creaks faintly beneath her weight. Outside, an owl calls once more. The wind moves through the ivy on the wall. And in the soft dark, Sister Agnes closes her eyes. The worst, none perhaps, but a happy one. The last note of the bell fades slowly into the dark, leaving behind a silence that feels almost alive. It fills every corridor, every room, every hollow space between the stones. The convent, which had murmured softly through the day with the sound of footsteps, prayer, and work, now rests completely still. The air is cool. The candles have been blown out one by one, leaving only a few small flames flickering near the chapel altar. Their light trembles across the walls, faint and golden, painting soft shapes that shift with every breath of air. Outside, the courtyard lies bathed in moonlight. The shadows of the arches stretch long and delicate over the cobblestones. Somewhere in the garden, a night breeze stirs the lavender, carrying its scent through the open shutters of the dormitory. It mingles with the faint smell of wax, smoke, and clean linen. Sister Agnes lies awake for a while, listening. The sound of sleep surrounds her. The gentle breathing of the other sisters. The occasional sigh, the faint rustle of cloth as someone turns beneath their blanket. It is a soft, steady music, perfectly in tune with the night. She closes her eyes but keeps her mind adrift, letting it wander in the dark. No thoughts of rules or duties come now. Only the memory of sunlight on the garden, the hum of bees, the glint of water in the well. Those small, perfect moments seem brighter here in the quiet. Beyond the walls, the village has fallen silent too. The market square, so full of murmurs and footsteps earlier, lies empty beneath the pale glow of the moon. The oak tree stands still, its leaves whispering faintly when the wind brushes through. The cottages are dark, except for an occasional candle still burning low in a window. Someone finishing a story, perhaps, or mending a torn sleeve by the fire's dying light. From the fields, the soft lowing of cattle drifts through the night, calm and rhythmic. A dog barks once, then again, before quiet returns. The mill wheel turns more slowly now, its wooden groan softened by distance and darkness. The brook beside it murmurs on, steady as breath. reflecting the moon like a line of silver thread. Inside the convent, time seems to have stopped altogether. The world feels held in a long, gentle pause. The night is not heavy, only deep like water. Sister Agnes opens her eyes and watches the faint shimmer of moonlight across the dormitory wall. She finds herself smiling, for no reason at all. She feels grateful, not for anything grand, but simply for being here, in this small, quiet world, where even the silence feels kind. In the convent, one sister always stays awake through the night. The keeper of the lamp. Her duty is simple: to watch, to pray softly, and to tend the small flame that must never go out. Tonight, it is Sister Beatrice who keeps the watch. She sits in the chapel's wooden stall, her back straight despite her age, her hands folded loosely in her lap. Beside her, a single lamp burns, its oil faintly scented with rosemary. The light pools across the stone floor, trembling gently, and reflects off the metal of the crucifix above the altar. Sometimes, Sister Beatrice hums a low tune to herself, one that only she can hear properly. Other times, she listens to the distant noises outside, the sigh of wind under the eaves, the creak of old wood, the faint tap of water from a leaky roof beam. All these sounds are like prayers themselves, slow, patient, wordless. Every few hours, she rises to refill the lamp with fresh oil. Her movements are practiced and unhurried. She does not look toward the sleeping sisters. She does not need to. She knows they rest in peace, and that her light, that small, steady glow, keeps the night safe for them. Back in the dormitory, Sister Agnes finally drifts into sleep. Her dreams are quiet, pale things, not full of events, but of impressions: the feeling of warm sunlight, the sound of bees, the taste of bread fresh from the oven. In her dream, she walks through the herb garden again, barefoot this time, her fingers brushing against soft leaves. The air smells of summer, though she does not know which season it truly is. The cat follows her, padding silently along the path. Somewhere, a bell rings, not sharply, but softly, as if from far away. Outside her dream, the moon climbs higher. Its light moves slowly across the convent roof, through the narrow windows, and down onto the floor. First touching one bed, then another, as if blessing each sleeper in turn. In the village below, a shutter bangs once in the wind, then goes still. A candle guttering in one house flickers out. Even the brook seems quieter now, its murmur deep and steady. The medieval night, so different from ours, yet so familiar, wraps itself around everything. No lamps glow on roads, no distant hum of machines, no rush of wheels on stone. Only stillness, breath, and stars. Slowly, the night deepens. Hours pass, though no one measures them. The bell does not ring again until the first pale edge of dawn appears. And so time stretches endlessly, an open space filled only with quietness. Sister Beatrice still tends the lamp, though her head droops slightly now and then. When she opens her eyes, the flame is still steady. She smiles faintly, adjusts the wick, and settles back into her vigil. In the dormitory, a few sisters stir in their sleep. A sigh, a shift, the faint creak of straw beneath a blanket. But even these sounds seem part of the peace. Not interruptions, but reminders that life continues softly through the dark. And Sister Agnes, still dreaming, smiles in her sleep. In her dream, the garden is bright again, and she is laughing, softly, as if afraid to disturb the bees. Somewhere, the lavender sways in a wind she can't feel but somehow knows is there. The night holds her, and the world, in a long and tender embrace. Long before the sun appears, the world begins to change in small, secret ways. The stars seem to pale a little. The air cools, then stills, then shifts again, carrying with it the faint scent of wet grass and earth. A rooster, uncertain and half-dreaming, crows once and falls silent. Inside the convent, everything remains wrapped in the hush of sleep. The stone walls hold the night's coolness, and the sisters lie motionless beneath their woolen blankets. Only the keeper of the lamp moves softly through the corridors, her bare feet silent against the worn floor. She looks once toward the sky through a narrow window, sees the faintest thread of gray, and knows that dawn is near. Outside, mist lies over the meadow, low and silver. The brook is hidden beneath it, though its voice can still be heard, the same soft murmur that carried through the night. The trees stand like quiet guardians, their branches dripping with dew. Every leaf seems to hold a small bead of light, though the sun has not yet risen. In the village below, the first cottage door opens with a creak. A man steps out, rubbing his arms against the chill, his breath white in the air. He glances toward the sky, sees that faint stripe of color at the horizon, and smiles. Soon he will lead his oxen to the fields again, just as his father did, and his father before him. A little later, another door opens, and another. A woman carries a bucket toward the well. The sound of the rope and pulley echoes faintly through the mist, followed by the soft splash of water. She lifts the bucket, wipes her hands on her apron, and pauses for a moment, listening to the quiet world waking around her. Then, at last, the bell. Its first note breaks the silence gently, not sharply, but like a breath. It rings once, twice, 3 times, before the full rhythm begins. The sound rolls out across the courtyard, through the fields, and over the roofs of the village, calling the world back from its dreams. Inside the dormitory, the sisters stir. Blankets rustle. A cough, a yawn, a whisper of, "Peace be with you." They rise slowly, stretching their arms, rubbing sleep from their eyes. The cold air makes them shiver, but also awakens them in a soft, familiar way. Sister Agnes blinks at the faint light filtering through the window. For a moment she lies still, caught between dream and waking, remembering the garden she walked in her sleep. Then she smiles, because she knows the scent of real lavender waits just beyond the walls. They dress quietly, pulling on their habits and fastening the cords at their waists. No one speaks much, words belong to daylight. And this is still the hour of murmurs. Sandaled feet whisper down the hall toward the chapel, where the keeper of the lamp waits with her small, steady flame. The chapel glows faintly now. A few candles flicker near the altar, their flames no longer the only light, for the first thin line of dawn has found its way through the window's colored glass. It paints soft hues, blue, rose, and gold, across the sisters' faces as they take their places in the stalls. The chant begins. Low voices rise and fall together, slow and even, more like breathing than singing. Latin words drift upward and dissolve into the rafters, mingling with the scent of smoke and stone dust and beeswax. Outside, a bird answers with a single note, then another. Soon the air is full of them, thrushes, sparrows, larks, each greeting the day in its own small song. Sister Agnes closes her eyes and lets the sound wash through her. She feels no hurry, no heavy thought, only the quiet joy of beginning again, of another day unfolding, gentle and ordinary. When prayers end, the convent stirs into its rhythm once more. The kitchen hearth is lit, and the smell of baking bread fills the corridor. Steam curls from the black pot hanging above the fire. Soon there will be porridge, warm and thick, and honey to sweeten it. In the garden, dew still clings to the herbs. Sister Agnes bends to gather a handful of mint and thyme, her fingers cool and damp. The cat follows her again, brushing against her ankles. From the fields beyond the wall, she can hear the soft thud of a hoe turning soil, the call of a farmer to his oxen, and the faraway laughter of children, chasing a goose toward the stream. The sun climbs slowly, gilding the thatch roofs, the church tower, the glistening leaves. The world seems new, though nothing has changed, and that is its beauty. The endless returning of the same small, peaceful things. By mid-morning, the mist has lifted. Smoke rises gently from chimneys. The sound of the mill wheel deepens again, steady and slow. A baker's cart rattles along the road toward the market. All the familiar notes of life return, weaving together into the quiet music of the village day. Sister Agnes looks up from her work, her eyes following a swallow that darts through the open window. It circles once above her head before vanishing back into the light. She smiles again. Not because of anything remarkable, but because she feels content in this small, ordinary moment. And so, hour by hour, the day passes, calm, measured, full of gentle repetition. The sun arcs across the sky, shadows shorten, and then grow long again. When evening comes, the bell will sound once more, calling everyone to rest. The nuns will gather for their final prayers, their voices blending softly in the dim glow of candles. Beyond the convent walls, the villagers will eat their simple meals, mend their tools, and tells small stories by the hearth. Children will fall asleep before the fire burns low, dogs will curl beside the doors. The stars will return, one by one, and in the quiet of that coming night, the same peace will settle again over the convent, the fields, the cottages, and the dreaming hills beyond. So ends another day in the gentle rhythm of medieval life. A day of bells and bread, of work and stillness, of small laughter and deep quiet. The worst nun, if she could be called that, has broken no rule except the rule of hurry. She has simply lingered longer at the well, smiled too easily at the cat, dreamed too deeply in her prayers, and in her unhurried way, she reminds us that even long ago, beneath the same moon and same sun, peace was found not in greatness, but in the quiet keeping of small, ordinary joys. As the final candle burns low and shadows stretch softly across the stone floor, the convent drifts once again into sleep. Outside, the night folds gently over the village, cool and tender. And under that calm, endless sky, every living thing rests, until the bell, faithful as ever, calls another morning into being.